Hey, it's Friday, and it's Jay, and it's Chris. What's going on? Long
Let's
time no
go.
see.
What I know it's been a really long time. This should be an exciting episode. I'm really excited today to talk about like all the stuff that we've missed because we haven't caught up for a while. So
I
before we get
know.
started, welcome everybody to On the Rocks, the show where we talk about accounting and accounting adjacent stuff, mostly as it relates to e-commerce. But not only, we'll probably talk about none of that today, but we'll see how it goes. I'm Chris Gino. I'm here with my co-host Jay Kimmelman. He's over there. It's like I said, it's been a few weeks since we caught up because Jay and I were both traveling. You may recall last we were talking about websites and other infrastructure as we continued our series on building out and starting your own e-commerce brand. This week, though, we're not going to continue that. We're not talking about that much accounting stuff at all, depending on what comes up in the news and notes. Yeah, because we want to give you a summary of like the trips we took and talk a little bit about what we had to do to plan and what we needed to do to make sure our clients were well taken care of and how great it feels to be away for a while, but also like maybe some of the drawbacks of having been away for a while. So we'll talk through all that stuff later on. Um, and go through like all the beautiful things that I saw and hopefully all the beautiful things that Jay saw. I haven't gotten anything except for a little bit of a travel record. So I'm really excited to hear about Jay's trip. But before we do that, there feels like there was a lot of things that happened that were accounting or accounting adjacent or e-commerce adjacent since we talked last. So I wanted to talk about all those things. So what happened? What happened since we talked last? I think the biggest news, and it's only accounting adjacent, so we won't spend a lot of time on it. But the former president of the United States was found guilty for falsifying business records, which is very much an accounting thing. And so it was at least it was really interesting to me that the controller of his company had to testify, as well as the AP clerk about the different processes that they were going through. And for me, that really drove it home in that if you are doing accounting services and accounting support, it can be very important that you have very good records of exactly what you were doing and why you were doing it and who you were doing it for and on whose behalf and everything else that goes along with that. So the story obviously feels a lot bigger than that, but it's really classifying transactions wrong, and how that impacted a business. So I don't know, Jay, do you have anything that you want to add about that? I felt like it was a huge deal at the time and still probably will be. And it's kind of like accounting. It's kind of wild.
Well, it is kind of like accounting, and I'm
Yeah.
really interested to see what, if anything's going to come out of that, as far as any changes to any of the to GAP. Are there going to be changes that are going to be made, or going to change audit procedures or tax prep? Because one thing when we deliver a tax return, we are preparing a tax return based upon what the client provides us.
Right.
And the engagement letter basically says you are signing off that this tax return is yours, and you sign it stating it is true and accurate. So,
Right.
and you deliver a tax return to a client, and next thing you know, they don't ask a question, they just sign it. It's like, don't do that. And then
Yeah.
you get a client that comes back and they start asking questions like, "I'm sorry to be a pain." I'm like, "No, please ask me these
Yeah.
questions,
This is
because
important stuff.
ultimately it is important, because you are signing your name that this is true and factual."
Right.
So I love the questions. I love the fact that you're asking. Don't think
Right.
you're being a pain, or we don't want to deal with it, because we do. It's
Absolutely.
it's what helps us understand you and what your thoughts are, and we can figure out what makes you tick by the questions you're asking.
Right.
And don't take it for advantage. Just go ahead and look at it and ask those questions. Don't just sign away.
Yeah.
It's not like you're
Absolutely.
signing up for an app and you're just scrolling through the terms and you click on it, yes.
Yeah.
It's very different. Which
I didn't.
honestly, that's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah, we didn't make that. That didn't make the news and notes, which is kind of embarrassing since I'm the one that compiled the news and notes, the change in service agreement for Adobe. It was a big news. It was definitely out there for a while. I don't know. I haven't read it. I don't use Adobe all that much. But it
Okay, when
sounds
did
like
that pop up?
The Adobe thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sometime while we were gone.
Okay,
I don't know
so
if it was. I don't know if it was last week or 10 days ago or whatever.
full disclosure, I mean, probably for a week before I went on vacation,
Right.
and since I've been on a news blackout, the only thing I am
Right.
aware of, another political figure was indicted as well. Other than
Yeah.
that, I have not paid any attention to the news,
Right.
and was trying to avoid it, and trying to avoid all reality, actually.
Nice.
So
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about why that's the right thing to do when we start talking about vacations. But before we get there, there was more fraud, as if one gigantic fraud wasn't enough. This one was related specifically to AI, a company that I had not heard of this company before, but I think it's Junco or something like that. They had some false and misleading statements to investors, and so the CEO and maybe the founder, they got busted for $21 million worth of fraud issues because they created fake bank statements and fake contracts that they gave to investors. And so that just reiterates again that if you're doing accounting support, like you need the right records, right? And you need a good backup of where that information came from, who provided it to you, and where you got it from, so that you can it's not you that's on the line, it's the CEO who gave you the fake thing or something like that. And it looked like there were lots of instances this week or over the past couple weeks of fraud reporting. I didn't note them all down, but I saw so many different ones where it was like, this guy committed fraud and that guy committed fraud. And so I don't know if there's just the SEC is just like June is the summertime and now they're like banging on people's doors or something, and that's what's going on. They're like, okay, well now people have done their reporting, now it's our turn to go bust folks. But it seemed like there were lots of fraud stories as I was scrolling through the news. Not just that though, there were lots of AI stories, which I actually think is super, super, super interesting. First, a personal story. Yesterday, I was booking another flight because I am going on a family trip in a few months, and Southwest had a birthday deal. So Southwest is located here in the DFW area. Their headquarters is right here in Dallas. And their birthday, I guess, was sometime over this week, right? They ran a promotion where 50% off on flights, which was pretty exciting. And so I booked the flight, but I realized like I didn't even have the opportunity to input my credit card number. I guess they already had it at Southwest, and so I clicked purchase without like actually putting the code in, and was like, no, I've made the worst mistake of all time. I didn't use the promo code. And so I reached out to their AI bot, and oh my goodness, AI bots have a long, long, long way to come. This was absolutely the worst experience I've ever had with a chatbot, and oh my goodness, it was so bad. I asked it a question about my specific thing. It was like, hey, I don't understand what you're asking. Can you ask again? So I did it again, and it gave me some answers that were like not anywhere in the neighborhood of what I was asking at all. Like it was honestly the worst chatbot experience that I've ever had. Now, part of that, of course, is probably because I was upset already, because I felt like I maybe missed on my opportunity to get half-price flights, which I've learned since was actually not the case. Like it was on a certain set of flights, and they already kind of like put it in there. So, I really was going to pay what I paid anyway. It wasn't a big deal. But their chatbot was so bad. I asked the chatbot, hey, do you like let people talk to real people? And it said, here's some options, and none of them had anything to do with that at all. I told the chatbot that I was not interested in talking to it anymore, and it said, here's some other options, and like work for links and things. And so I was really surprised that some of the response activity that I got from this AI chatbot were so bad. So I am hopeful that technology improves over time. But if it doesn't, it's just going to I will not use that chatbot again. It was not helpful. It was very, very bad. And so,
So, so I had the very opposite impact
oh,
with
good.
the Delta chatbot, which I was a
Yeah.
frequent flyer on in the last
Uh-huh.
week. You know, due to
Yeah.
various issues going on, and
Yeah.
you
Sure.
know, yeah, you click in there and it says, "Would you like to log in?" I'm like, "Yes," and
That's a
you
great
know,
idea.
it used Face ID. It logged me in
Oh,
immediately,
wow.
recognized who I was, and said, you know, "Thank you for being a valued customer."
Yeah.
And asked what did I want to discuss, and I said I needed to discuss X with a representative. And
Yeah.
it says, "Let me get this right. You want to speak to a representative regarding?" "Yes." "Let me transfer you."
Yeah.
It took less time to chat with a rep than it does to actually get one on the phone now. And I will say, I I don't know. I think the live reps
Uh-huh.
give you different information, and we could get into some of
Yeah.
that when we start talking about the travel and stuff. But
Sure.
I I find the AI bots were fairly helpful on Delta
Yeah.
this trip,
Hey, that's
and
great.
I've actually been doing a little bit of research on using ManyChat, which is a chat bot which connects to Facebook, Instagram, and such,
Oh,
and
yeah. Okay.
also linking it with Make.com so that you can pull in your information, go back out to ChatGPT and use whether you're using a personal GPT that you've trained or what to get
Yeah.
responses. So depending on what you're doing, you can actually do that and put in your company policies, and it will understand it, know your pricing, what your services are, and it will spit out what you're telling it to do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what Southwest has there, where
Yeah.
it's kind of captive at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas
Well,
you want it to
and
be
it,
much more dynamic.
well, and I'll be honest. Like, obviously, my situation is not one that you run into that frequently, right? Where Southwest doesn't offer discounts all that frequently. I don't believe, right? They don't
Right.
have a discount code thing happen much, and so I'm sure that the experience is significantly different if you're just like trying to check in for your flight or make a change to a reservation or something like that. Like, I'm positive, like based on the responses that I got, that you're gonna likely have a much more, like a much better experience. But there are these like subtle situations, or situations that are a little bit more out of the ordinary, where like they're just not ready. At least this
Yeah.
one wasn't. And it sounds like for Delta, and again, maybe that's the same thing, right? What, like in Delta's case, like that's a situation that happens a lot, right? That chatbot
Right.
knows how to respond to that situation because it sees it frequently.
Or
Whereas,
maybe it's me training it to give me the answers I
right,
want.
yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
so maybe this I don't know, I don't remember if Southwest said it was an experimental AI bot, but they did let me know it was an AI chatbot, so that's how I know it was an AI chatbot. I don't know if it's still learning, and it's just a baby, like it's maybe a couple weeks old or something, but and I don't know if I just caught it at the busiest time where it was like, I'm dealing with
Yep.
1,000 of these, I'm giving you bad answers because I just can't process so fast. I don't know, because it was kind of right at the end of the sell period,
Yeah.
and in talking with the Southwest agent today, like it was an extremely busy day for Southwest yesterday because of this promotion that was ending. So there was a lot of volume. It could be there's all kinds of reasons why my experience could have been what it was, but it was just a reminder that there is a lot of effort that needs to go into making AI function properly. And without that effort and without the continuous training and continuous learning and improvement, it can still be a really bad experience.
For
So
sure.
make sure you're doing it right, and that should be good for you. One other AI thing that I saw that's coming up. There was a company, and I didn't write the name of it down, but there's a company that's in food and beverage support, in the e-commerce space, so B2B e-commerce of food and beverage stuff, that's introduced an AI order processing system, which I thought was really interesting as a as an opportunity to provide e-commerce entities, or just entities in general that are doing that type of business, with the ability to make that order processing function just more more streamlined. Because if an AI system of some sort is able to take your customers' orders and just directly get them to wherever they need to be fulfilled from, and process all of that without too much intervention, like that can really improve your overall workflow. Like we've talked about a whole bunch of different times on the show before.
Yeah.
So I thought it was exciting that this AI option was out there and getting some practice and starting to learn about how that order processing process goes. There like I mentioned, AI made the news a lot here. I read it. There was a study that has been done so from again a bunch of respondents that of course, and I think we all kind of know this, but generative AI use is on the rise, right? It's being used a lot in marketing and sales, in product development, and IT. And I thought the most important thing was that respondents were reporting significant savings across like a very wide swath of like the functions of their business. Some of them were, marketing and stuff was maybe 10 to 15%. But areas like HR and specifically like risk compliance, they were seeing savings of 20% or higher in some instances in those areas. And I actually thought that was really interesting because I think about that a lot of the real use case for generative AI specifically within a business is to like compose documents and to do paperwork, right? Because it knows what the paperwork needs to say because you've given it all that data that you talked about, Jay, right? You've given it all of, here's my handbook, here's all the information you need. I need you to tell me what this is, right? And so when you're hiring people or when you're needing to make sure that you're compliant with something, generative AI can be significantly valuable in helping you to make sure that your documentation is correct. And so then when you go to your lawyer, instead of having them draw it up for you, now you have at least like a rough copy or a rough draft of what that compliance document needs to look like, and they can just review it. And so you can see the real life use cases of AI in generative AI specifically, like already happening. So I thought that was an interesting study, and I'm really excited to see where that continues to go. One other that was a little bit more e-commerce focused was eBay. I don't know if you saw this, Jay. It sounds like probably not, since you didn't see much of the news. They're rolling out an AI back photo enhancement tool. So they're like going to make people's pages a little cleaner, so that they can help users create higher quality like product listings, so that the products are more attractive to the people who want to buy them. And I was like, that's a really interesting thing for eBay to do. I mean, they obviously they get their cut from people using the site, right? And so if they can help, it reminded me a lot of I don't know if I mentioned this on the show, but I used to be an Airbnb host, and toot my own horn here, I was 5 stars. I was a super host in the Dallas area, and one of the offers that I got as a super host was Airbnb came to my house and photographed my room with a professional photographer to put up on the site, right? They were like, hey, thanks for all of the work that you do. Here's the thing we're going to offer you. And so this reminded me a lot of that, of Airbnb trying to make my listing look that much better and more appealing, so that both I could make more money and then effectively they could make more money. And so I thought that was really interesting to see that happen with AI related stuff, where eBay is using this AI technology to make listings look better and more effective for their users. What do you think about that, Jay?
Well, that sounds to me like eBay is starting to feel pressure from the other 4-letter marketplace, Etsy. I think
Yeah.
they're probably feeling some pressure there, and they want to make eBay look a little prettier. And,
Right.
makes sense, make it more aesthetically pleasing. You bring fresh eyes and you will be able to sell more product, and that's what they're trying to do. And, we're
Right.
seeing that. I mean, I haven't seen the specific examples in Shopify, but there are tools that work with Shopify that will, they will do mock-ups for you and do your descriptions and such to help you, market and sell more product as well. So it's all out
Right.
there, and it's all going to be helpful moving forward.
Yeah.
It's just making sure you harness it and use it the right way.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that especially as we talk to the point that we were talking about before about risks and compliance and HR related things, like it is very important that you still have somebody review what's happening, right? You can't just outsource your policy management directly to a generative AI, because you do need someone to you need oversight, right? It is
For
important to
sure.
have that, and it is important to still do that. Jay,
Now,
there were eight. Oh, go ahead.
before we move off of the AI conversation, so
Yeah.
I just want to make a conversational piece here, which is going to lead into what I'm going to talk to. But you're wearing your Camp A2X bucket hat, and
I am.
I saw a post by our buddy Jeff, and he
Yep.
was in the UK at ZeroCon,
I did. I saw that too.
and made me think of AI because Zero did a live demo of Jax, which is just
Oh.
at Zero, which uses generative AI. And
Yeah.
I am so excited to see that. I have not had the opportunity to see
Yeah.
it yet. And, being that ZeroCon is just 2 months away.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited to see that and to see how they've harnessed it. I
Right.
had a peek at a chat, speaking of which, chatbot that Zero demoed in 2016. And they actually had a number of different variations of that. One that connected to the partner directory that would use the partner directory to connect you with an accountant. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Jax is going to do and deliver. So just want to throw that out there. And
No, that's great.
yeah, so it was
No,
great. Yeah.
I love that companies are utilizing AI. I think that when you can take out the monotony and mundane parts of people's jobs, that you make your work environment much better, much more appealing, and if you can do that across the entire workforce and entire workspace, I think you end up with happier people altogether. So I'm
most
excited
definitely.
for all the improvements that AI can give us.
The conversation has been for the last few years AI and the robots are taking accounting jobs. It's not taking the jobs, it's just changing it and morphing it. And
Right. That's right.
making us into better advisors.
I think so too, and I think that that's an important thing to remember. Right, is instead of spending hours and hours and hours of doing your own research, now you can use your generative tool to say, "Hey, find that database for me and give me the answer to my research." Where you know the question to ask because you have the right set of experience, and you kind of know where to point it. But now you don't have to do the research. Right, that's huge. Now, obviously, again. The same thing, that we've talked about before here, right? It's oversight, right? You can't just do that and outsource it completely. You need to make sure that, you double check the work, right? You need to make sure it's really true.
100%.
It is right. But at least it saves you all the effort of trying to go figure it out yourself. I think that it's a huge value, and will continue to be. Absolutely. Now, as we move on, the next few things that have happened were all IRS or tax related. So let me run through them briefly here. So the IRS, they're using their money, man. The however many billions they use their funds to update their career site. So they're trying to get some more agents in the door by making their career site a little more functional, which I think is a good thing to see, right? We've talked about that before. Like, if a highly functioning IRS is going to make everybody's job easier, because it means that the right people are going to you're going to get the help when you need it. You're going to be able to get the support when you need the support, and you're going to be able to get your questions answered more effectively and more timely. And that's really what extra funding to the IRS is really all about, right? It's solving people's problems, right? So I was glad to see that they've made a little bit of an investment in their career site. It also looks like at least through some conversations, again, it's hearsay to Congress, so who knows what's going on there for real. But it sounds like there had been some conversation about increasing the limit on your state and local tax deduction, but it seems like that might be getting frozen, where the hike of that limit is maybe not going to happen after all. So who knows if that's true or not? Who knows if that's really going to happen or not? I think, as we've talked about for months now, like, you'll get a result when you get a result, and I think whatever happens in November is going to have a significant impact on what happens there. And we can talk about that probably next week or in the future sometime of between now and November, of like what difference that really makes. Like what difference does it make? What kind of, I mean, tax changes are going to happen anyway, because the TCJA or whatever is about to expire, and so because of that, we're gonna have some stuff that's happening. Like, it doesn't make any difference who the president's going to be. There's gonna be something going on. And
well,
so
2 weeks from yesterday, we have the first presidential debate between our two candidates. Yeah. So we might have something to talk about as far as tax strategy and tax policy in 2 weeks. So we'll see what comes out there. And,
absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see.
At Engage, which was last week, and so obviously neither of us were there because we were busily jet setting around the world otherwise. But at Engage, a national taxpayer advocate talked about how surprisingly TikTok is not a great place to get quality tax advice. Shocking news out of that, but it came up specifically at Engage, which is just a reminder of like the fight that has to happen to fight bad tax advice that's just out in social media. And the interesting thing that came out of that particular article that I read is that the IRS actually is supposed to be banned from using TikTok, so they can't even go see the advice that they're fighting against, which I did think was interesting, right? And so there's been some pushback on that maybe it should be fine to let some government people use it for exactly that, right? To make sure that they know the like ridiculous strategies that influencers out on TikTok are offering up. But I thought it was funny because I know we've talked about it a couple times before, Jay, of just like, man, TikTok advice can be really, really bad, and the IRS knows it too. They recognize it, and they just they like take some of that information and include it in the like 10 things that are 10 strategies that you definitely shouldn't do because they're not actually real. Which I thought that I saw that happen at Engage was pretty funny to me. So,
quick aside with that, the other day, well, it's right before we left for our trip, my wife's like, "What's a G-Wagon?"
Oh no!
And then I showed her a picture of it, and she's like, "Why would anybody want that? It's ugly." Mm-hmm. I'm like, because they get a tax deduction.
She's
like, "What's a deduction?" Only way. Like, the government pays for it. Come on, just like they said on TikTok. And she's like, "Oh, come on, that can't be true." So,
it's a write-off.
Yeah, it's a write-off.
Tax advice. Get it from a tax professional, not from the internet. Just telling you. I am not a tax professional, and I'm telling you, tax professionals are the only way to go. Get your tax advice from a tax professional. Don't fool around with what the internet tells you. It is often wrong. One other final like IRS thing that I saw was that ERC claims, they just keep on pouring in, even though there's a moratorium on processing them. They're just still on happening, which is wild to me.
I do believe they have started reprocessing some again.
Oh, is that right?
They're being very selective about the ones that they are processing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the article that I read said that we were up to 9 months of a moratorium now, but I'm sure like it's very possible that some of some specific ones are being processed. But it is just kind of wild that claims are still coming in. I worry a lot that a lot of those ERC claims are from TikTok advice, and maybe not all that valid. But hopefully be.
I would say it's more from celebrity endorsements and TV ads and other things along those lines. There,
it's the
some of the sharks that were promoting it. But going back to the tax advocate real quick, they were saying that the number of claims that the tax advocate office is processing since 2019 has skyrocketed, and they are handling so many cases that they're taking so much longer to get those processed through. because of the volumes, and a lot of it
True.
just has to do with a lot of the bad advice that people are getting and things
Yeah.
along those lines. So, even people that, and I think I even talked about this a while back. I had a client that we filed a refund due to COVID and rescinding of the carryback rules.
Yeah.
And the claim, I think, still is being looked at by the tax advocate. It's been a year and a half now.
Oh my goodness.
So,
wow.
and they paid a shit ton of tax. They had a shit ton of loss from COVID, just trying to get back what they paid. And
Yeah.
it's just shuffle papers here, shuffle papers there, and it is what
Right.
it is. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was all the IRS news specifically that I captured. The last couple of things that I wanted to talk about, at least from a news perspective, were more e-commerce based. A lot of times the news that we talk about is accounting based in some capacity, but these were like specific e-commerce things that I thought were really interesting and that I thought might be interesting to talk about. The first one, I read that MasterCard is phasing out card number entry in online payments in the EU by 2030. That's not that far away, and they're moving more to like a biometric approval, basically. So your card number or whatever would be filed and stored, and then you can just use that card and your biometrics instead of having to key in like whatever your card number was to make your transaction. So I feel like, and maybe this is just a feeling, but I feel like that ends up making e-commerce transactions just more like less friction in them, so that they can be a little easier. Which sounds like a positive improvement. Sure, it's like 5 or 6 years away, but being able to make that happen more effectively on a going forward basis definitely sounds like something that would be pretty good, right?
I mean, the base of that's already out if you're using Apple or Google Pay. I mean, we already have that to a point.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean...
Well, how boring. So
right.
This is old news then.
No, well,
Sorry about
not
that,
really.
everyone.
I mean, they're doing it from
Yeah.
the platform level at this point, so it's going to be a little bit better. But, like you said, it's frictionless. So it's like, I'm at the point now, it's like, I don't want to buy anything if I have to pull a credit card out.
Yeah,
Just let me use my Apple Pay. It's too simple.
Yeah, mine's GPay or whatever, Google Pay. It's the same exact idea, right?
Yeah.
It is so much easier to have the thing saved, to be able to click through, and that also highlights a really random thing that I saw. I guess there was a scientist here in the United States who developed or found or identified a way to use quantum physics to assist in cybersecurity, to make it a little bit easier. Now, I think this is like in the super early stages, but instead of going through all the computational stuff that you have to go through now for encryption, like the guy found like a way to make it like significantly more streamlined and a little bit more difficult to hack, which I thought was a really interesting development. I'm sure it's much too early to like really take much stock of that, but we've talked before about how cybersecurity is important, and if it does get streamlined and more efficient, what a huge win. So we'll see probably in 2030 like the first like iteration of something out of that, maybe, but we'll see. In the e-commerce. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jay.
But the funny thing about that, by 2030, we'll still be writing checks in the U.S.
Probably so. You know who won't be writing checks? Amazon. And
that's right.
Yeah, one of the things that they're doing is expanding their drone delivery service. So they got some approval by the FAA over the past couple weeks sometime to be able to like fly because they used to be able to fly their drones, but somebody had to be able to see it all the time. So they the drone pilot had to see where it was going to be able to fly it. But they figured something out where their drones can have evasive maneuvers and not just smash into stuff in the air. And so because of that, they're expanding their drone delivery service, and they're doing it in College Station, so right down to the south of where I am.
Nice.
It probably won't be that long before my first Amazon drone delivery. So we'll see how that goes. It's another layer of frictionless. I think where Amazon is looking to make the fulfillment process just as easy as it could possibly be, um, and I I think about like the dropping something from 1,000 feet or something and it just being smashed, right? Like you think about that as a joke, right? But I think they're like not using trucks is a really good thing. Like if you can do that and you can do it effectively, like that actually is probably great for a lot of different reasons. Like drones don't take quite as much like suck on the environment. I don't think. No research done on that by me, but I'm guessing like it doesn't use fuel in the same way. And then it's just like right into your like backyard or whatever, and drones are pretty easy to handle, so maybe it could just be landed on your back porch where you don't have to worry about somebody like swiping right off the front porch.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting thing to see, and it's a cool thing to be alive, to be a part of like all this experimental technology, to see whatever happens in that fulfillment process. I think it will be a lot of fun to see what happens next.
Yeah, there's a lot of use cases for that. I mean,
Of course,
DoorDash, Uber Eats. I mean,
it's a huge
I'm
thing,
not.
right?
I'm not saying let's put these gig economy workers out of
Yeah, workers out of
work,
business, right? Yeah, no.
but I mean,
Well, somebody has to fly the drone.
somebody's got to fly the drone. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
So I don't know. It will be interesting to see how
yeah,
both the workforce changes and just general fulfillment changes. If or when, I guess when is probably more appropriate. Like when that becomes like truly like an effective way to fulfill orders. So definitely looking forward to what happens there next. A couple other things that I saw. Alibaba launched Guaranteed. Alibaba is like I've always thought of them as the Chinese Amazon. Their Guaranteed service is guaranteed delivery here in the United States. So it seems like they're trying to make a push into our market a little bit to get guaranteed delivery timing and all of that stuff for U.S. residents and U.S. and folks in the U.S. So they're trying to take advantage of the gigantic market that's here. Another article that I read also talked about how the e-commerce space is going to continue to grow, and the U.S. market and the Chinese market are kind of the top two markets there. So Alibaba breaking into ours kind of makes a lot of sense. So I'll be interested to see like what they start to offer and how they start to offer, and whether they become like a true competitor to Amazon in that same kind of way, or whether they just end up as maybe an alternative fulfillment option. I do
well,
think it
that's
will be
what I was
interesting.
going to ask you. What is the guarantee? What's the time frames they're looking at?
I
Because
didn't read that close, but I do think like
yeah,
that is a really good question, right? If they can speed up delivery and be competitive with Prime, like that could be a huge thing. My guess is that they can't.
yeah.
Not right now. I'm sure they're still using other delivery systems, and I didn't read the article that fully to be like, oh, they're talking about 5-day delivery or whatever. Um, so it will be interesting to see what that actually means, and then also like what kind of traction it gets, because there has always been a little bit of hesitancy to to buy from Chinese companies here in the United States for a whole kinds of different reasons. And so it will be interesting, like how much traction Alibaba gets as a true market leader in market placing. So we will see what happens there for sure.
So
Um,
you look at ease of entry into the e-commerce space, and one of those ways of doing it is drop shipping.
Definitely.
And a lot of the apps that you would connect to Shopify for drop shipping, they work with Alibaba for the product, and you
Yeah.
have to specifically look for ones that do U.S. domestic products and shipping
Sure.
versus those that are using Alibaba. And I've played with it a bit and helped some clients with it in the past, and you're looking
Yep.
at 20 to 25 day delivery time.
Ooh, yeah, that's no
And
fun.
but you are buying a product that you are paying $2 or $3 for, and you're selling it for $20 to $25, and the
Right.
shipping is like $5, but it takes
Yeah.
forever to get there. That's
Right.
the alternative. So you get the same product, you have a smaller margin, but it's getting there in 3 or 4 days from U.S. suppliers. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah,
it truly does.
So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what happens there then too, and out of that guaranteed model, like what truly comes out of that. The last point of news, and we've talked about news for like a while now, but the last point of news is that I saw that Shopify acquired checkout blocks, which is a company that allows like for customization and specialization of your like checkout page, and so it allows you to ask different questions when customers are checking out or get different information. So it can truly allow Shopify Plus users to customize their checkout experience, which I think is a really interesting thing, right? As we've talked about before, like there may be specific data that you want from a customer so that you can like truly target them going forward. So you can really know the customers that you're getting, and so being able to like acquire that extra information from your customers through your checkout page can be like a huge gain. So I'm excited to see that Shopify is continuing to improve in that way, and I'll be interested to see like what that actually means, because I don't know, I don't spend a whole lot of time designing checkout pages, and I really just use them, and so. And so it'll be interesting to see like what that really means and how that changes your user experience, because I do think that that's the most important part, really.
That is. So, you mentioned it earlier, frictionless.
Yeah,
make it easier. Yeah.
The easier that you can make everything, the more people are likely to use your site, and the more people are likely to come back. So. Exactly. I think if your checkout process is super super easy, and you also are connecting and getting extra data that you really want, like that's a huge win. So I'll be interested to see what that means and what that actually looks like in execution as they go forward. And then of course, Jay, we have to talk about it every time because we started it and now we can't just quit now. Nothing going on in Congress, right? We talked about it 100 times. Of course, I have not seen any movement related to any kind of tax related stuff. So and again, we wouldn't expect there to be anything between now and November for sure. So your tax planning for the year 2024 gonna be a challenge. So again, make sure that you're talking to a tax professional, someone who can at least tell you what your options are likely to be, so that you can do the best planning that you can. But know that the best planning might not be that great this year, because there could just be a whole slew of changes at the end of the year.
Well, I doubt there will be any changes at the end of this year, because
everything.
If there is an administration change, it's not going to happen early enough in January to have it taken care of.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
so 24 is probably
first time we'd see anything would be for tax year 25.
Well, let's hope that that's true. I know a couple years ago that didn't work out that way and became a little bit of a challenge. Yeah. But fingers crossed that it doesn't cause big problems, and that 24 you can do some planning, because you kind of know that there's not going to be any changes at this point. We'll continue to monitor it, and I'll probably bring it up every single week as we continue to see nothing happen. I've gone this far. We're 6 months in. Like, I've gone this far. I can't stop now. So that's all the news and notes that I had. That's a lot of news and notes, because it's been 3 weeks or whatever since we've talked to you all. So I'm hopeful that you enjoyed the conversation around those news and notes. Jay, before we get to what happened last week, what are you drinking? Are you just on water today?
I am just on water today. Yeah. I am still a little jet lagged here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lots
of coffee today.
I got back last Sunday, which is a long time ago, but I am almost caught up, I think, on rest. Finally, 5 days in, and so today I am having Deschutes. This is their wrong way. This is their fresh haze IPA. But I already drank that one, so we're going back to Dallas, and one of the staples here in Dallas, the Deep Elm IPA. We're going to pop that one open right now, and so while we do, then we'll head on forward, Jay, to our general discussion, which again today has likely will have very little to do with accounting, because we both went on vacation, and it's really fun to talk about vacation topics and how vacations went. I love exploring the world. It's probably my favorite thing to do. And so I love hearing people's experiences on vacation. I love talking about the cool shit that I got to do, and then I think that and we talked about this several months ago now, but like in the accounting space, right? Burnout is a very real thing, and that means that you have to dedicate time to take off. It is important to do, and so we want to talk a little bit about like what did you have to do to be comfortable to go? Like, and then now we're back, right? So what happened now? Like, how many new emails do we have? Like, what's good about having come back, right? Let's talk about all those different things. Like, so Jay, first, where'd you go?
Yep. So my wife, daughter, and I went to Greece. We were celebrating my daughter's high school graduation, and she has been talking about Greece for years, as she was a huge fan of the Mamma Mia movie series.
They're from Greece?
They went to Greece.
They went to Greece. Okay,
went to
got
Greece
it.
in the movie.
Got it.
And it was there was actually one of the days we were out on a catamaran tour, and it's a sunset cruise, and there were probably 30 to 35 catamarans sitting in this one area, and three or four of them you could hear playing different Mamma Mia songs in the background. And she was just sitting there, beating to it. She was having a great time with it.
I love that. I love that. My wife and I, we had actually planned to go to Greece in May of 2020. Obviously, as everyone knows, that didn't happen. And so I'm curious, Jay. Like, we had talked about going to 3 islands over the period of maybe a week and a half. What did you do?
We hit Athens for 3 days.
Okay,
it's more 3 nights than 3 days.
Yeah,
and then we did Santorini for 3 days, and then we flew back to Athens and back into New York.
Yeah. So obviously I've not ever been to Greece. That trip that we were talking about was our first one. How was Santorini? Was it everything?
Santorini, it was, and then some. I mean, the views of the island were spectacular.
Yeah.
We had a hotel that was built into the mountain.
Oh, I love that.
We were right there, and my wife actually, when we got there, asked if we could get one of their suites that had a jet tub out on the balcony.
Oh yeah, sure.
So we were in there in the heated tub, for sunset, sunrise, sunset for one of the nights, and even had breakfast in there. It was amazing. And a couple of pictures I took were from sunset, and it was just breathtaking views.
Love it.
Can't say enough about it. The worst part of the whole trip was our hotel was 137 steps down, which meant it was 137 steps up.
Back up.
And I think I mentioned a few weeks ago I had a cardiac procedure, which I'm glad I had it, because I would have thought I was having a heart attack every time I was going up those damn stairs. And it was tough. I mean, but my daughter's like, I'm getting my workout in, so if I want to have whatever that gelato was or that dessert, I'm good. And we did it. And one day we did like 14,000 steps, and of those steps, it was like 34 flights, according to my iPhone.
Wow.
So it was tremendous.
Yeah.
And, we got there, and we were greeted by this gentleman who just picked up one bag, put it on his shoulder, carried the other one, just carried him on down. And
all 137 just like cruising right down. Oh my word.
Yeah, and one of the bags was 49 pounds, the other was 53. So
Wow.
and just ran on down, and here I am with a small bag just going down. It's like, oh my god, this thing's so heavy, and
Yeah,
he's
take a break.
like nothing, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then you see the gentleman, he just lights up a cigarette, and he's just like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no big deal. That's funny. Like the sister in Encanto or whatever, carrying the world on his back. That's amazing, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
So-
All right. So one other question. One other question. Another follow up here.
Yeah.
Right. I've never been to Athens. Have you been to Rome, Jay?
Never been to Rome, and
All right.
Italy is number one on my list.
Okay,
And,
so then
you know-
my question is no good anymore. So I take it.
Okay.
I'm not even going to ask it. But my original question was: Rome has loads and loads of history built into it,
Right.
and so you can like be going through central Rome, downtown Rome, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden there's like this ancient building on your right,
Mm-hmm.
or like a racetrack from like the 300 BC or something. And so my question actually is like, is Athens that way too? Because I've not been to Athens, and so is the history of Athens just incorporated into the city in the same way, or is
Oh.
it segregated?
A lot of it is, you
Okay.
have the Acropolis,
Yeah.
which is the birthplace of democracy.
Oh yeah.
And we went through there, learned so much in the tour we went through there. We did
Yeah.
the Acropolis, we saw the Pantheon,
Sure.
and learned about how it was destroyed and how it was built and the different groups that controlled it. Learned about Zeus and his family, and I can't remember his daughter's name now, but she battled with Poseidon. Oh, Athena, duh, because they named it Athens after her. And duh. So it's just amazing listening to how they battled it out, and she won, and that's how we got olive oil from the olive tree that she put down there.
Love it. Thanks,
And-
Athena.
Yeah,
Appreciate that. Don't want your
And-
olives, but your oil though. Big fan.
there you go.
Yeah.
So it was just the beauty of it, and then the
Yeah.
history and all these other
Right.
facts. I mean, we just mix it in there.
Right.
And then we went on a tour of the Acropolis Museum to
Oh.
find out that as they were putting down the foundation for this museum, they're digging down and found a city underneath it, and all these different
Really?
sculptures under. I mean, just amazing. And
That's amazing.
it just really impacted me as
Yeah.
the history of all of that and what had
Right.
happened, and you hear the stories. It's like it's not very different than what we're going through today, and that's what history is. I mean, we have to learn from history to make sure we don't repeat it,
Right. Time is a flat circle.
for sure.
Yeah.
And that day one was Acropolis. Day two, we took another tour, and it was not what we had expected. We expected to go to the Temple of Poseidon and to swim there. We actually went to the ruins of Hera's temple, and Hera
Okay.
was Zeus's wife.
Mm.
And we actually swam in a lake out there, and
Fancy.
driving out there, we first stop to was I can't remember the name of the canal, but it was the two bodies of water, and it was separated by 6 kilometers, and they would actually use levers and other tools
Oh, wow.
to roll ships across this area.
Wow.
And then
Amazing.
they ended up building a canal through it. And I have some pictures of it, and it's basically
Yeah.
a football field wide, and just huge. I mean, it's just beautiful. Everything
Yeah.
just breathtaking.
Yeah. All right. So
And,
keep Greece on the to-do list for life.
for sure.
Is all right?
And,
That's good to know.
And
That's good to know.
we left there thinking we got to go back because there's so much more we haven't seen. Like, from Athens, we took a high-speed ferry to Santorini, and Santorini was the 5th stop. You had 4 other islands, one of which was Mykonos.
Yeah. Yep.
and it seemed a very touristy place because more than
Yeah, it is.
half the ferry got off there, and as many people got back on there. And
Right.
this ferry was
Yeah,
amazing.
Mykonos and yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, we were gonna try to stay in like off island islands, I think, when we talked about it
Yeah,
originally, but never quite finalized the plan because we just didn't. We ended up not doing it right. So I think we picked our three islands, but we weren't gonna do Mykonos, but we obviously Mykonos and Santorini are very popular.
yep,
We were gonna do a couple that were a little bit less active. I think was our intention. But there's so many, right? Islands just in general are like so wonderful because you do get the things that you talked about before, right? You get the ability to sit out in a hot tub and watch the sunrise,
yeah,
unencumbered, right? There's that you don't get that really here in Texas, right? We've got trees, we don't have a lot of elevation changes, but
right,
um, I'd have to like sit on my roof to be able to do that, right? Because there's just stuff back there
right,
where the sun comes up, and then the same like houses. I live in a subdivision in the suburbs, so there's houses in the way, so I can't really watch the sunset. It's just not a
right.
thing that I can do. And so being able to like get to an island or like I did get to a coast, um, just really like ups the game of of like nature watching, right, and just enjoying and being one like with the world, really, right, like just
For
kind of
sure.
absorbing like this is the way that it is, right. And so I went to Alaska. I started in Seattle, and then I did an Alaskan cruise. I went with a couple friends of mine, and then my wife and I took the baby, and my in-laws came to kind of help give us some relief, so we could hang out with the adults on occasion if we wanted to. We started in Seattle, went to Juneau, where we got to go hike around Mindenhall Glacier, and we specifically planned to hike over to Nugget Falls there at the Glacier Visitor Center. Um, Mindenhall Glacier. It was interesting because one of my friends that I traveled with, had gone maybe 15 years ago, when maybe even 20 years ago now, and he was like, "Man, the glacier has receded so much. It used to be so much closer, or out to like this area of the rock instead of that area of the rock, right?" And so it was interesting to hear about like how much change there's been. But one of the most interesting things there, the next that first day, like what Juneau is very popular for whale watching, and so that first day was a sea day before we got to Juneau, and taking and being there on a boat, just kind of out in the water, like they had an observation area, right, where you can just look out, and we saw like a little pod of humpback whales just like cruising about, like splashing around, um, and it's the same kind of experience, right, where there's just nothing there but water and the wildlife that's there, right. That's one of the there are two draws, I think, to Alaska. The first one is all of the wildlife, and the second one is like the nature sites. And so we got to see the glacier, we got to see this waterfall there in Juneau. Um, we we continued on to Skagway. Skagway is famous because it has the like maybe oldest elevated railroad in the history of the United States or something like this. And so we took the train up with the baby up to the summit. I think it's 3,000 feet up or something like that. So it's like a pretty good climb on a train, and you get to like see out and see all the views. Right? We got to see a bear. There was a bear hanging out on the side of the train, just like chilling out there, eating stuff, doing whatever he was doing. Right? So it's that like connection to nature, and it's not the same kind of history as there is in Greece. Right? Like this was built in 1890 or something, right, when there was a gold rush in Alaska. But it's the same train line, it's the same train tracks. Like they've improved them or whatnot, but it's the same path
Mm-hmm.
uh, from a couple hundred, like 150 years ago or whatever, 130 years ago. And so it's so interesting to be able to share that experience, to see like there were people here who were interested in being here because they were trying to like go find gold. Right, there was a lot of that kind of history. The next day was maybe one of my most favorite. The that there is a national park. It's called Glacier Bay. Glacier Bay National Park. I think it's a national park. I don't know actually. I need to probably like go make sure that I know one way or the other. But it's like a national protected area, right, where there are several glaciers in the Alaska area. There, just kind of around the fjord from Skagway. And so while we were there, you got to see a whole variety of these glaciers, to see them up close, to see them from this cruise ship, which is a little bit like maybe disenchanting because you are on a cruise ship. You recognize, like, it's hard to like disassociate that I'm the one killing the glacier and I'm also enjoying the glacier at the same time. Like, it's kind of a real challenge there, but it's amazing to like see those glaciers up close and to understand that, especially because they give you a little map, and then the little map shows you like in 1905 the glacier was here, and in 1890 the glacier was here, and to be like, well, this particular area that I'm in right now, like 100 years ago was ice, like it was just condensed ice, and so now the Great Glacier has receded, and it's opened up this opportunity to be able to enjoy this, and one of the things that you see there, just everywhere, were otters. And so they're like just hanging out on their backs, like eating whatever they're eating, like they're just being cute like otters are. And so it was it's just like being able to see the wildlife, being able to see see everything that was there, right? It's just such a joy. The next day we went to Ketchikan, and in Ketchikan, like,
I can confirm for you before you jump on that Glacier Bay is a national park.
Let's go. I thought it was.
So yeah, you got that. You nailed
you get
that.
you get the glacier, you get the like thing that looks like the national park brochure. So if you've ever been to a national park, they have the like little folio that tells you all about the national park. We got one of those, which made me think it was a national park, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Like, there's a possibility they do that for state parks or like special areas or something. But yeah, Glacier Bay National Park, big fan. So we went on to Ketchikan, and in Ketchikan, one of my friends got a video of two different bald eagles just like scooping up the salmon, ready to go, like right in the river. And they're right there, right? I got to see one fly right, like basically right over the cruise ship when I was out on our balcony, and so it's just it was so enjoyable to be able to be there an interesting thing about Alaska that I never really thought about is a lot of the coastline and coastal area is a rainforest, because very much like Seattle, in a lot of that southern part of the little tip of Alaska, the southern little area that's there, like, it rains a whole lot. It gets a little colder than Seattle, but it like just rains a bunch, and so because of that, there's a lot of precipitation, a lot of moisture, and so my wife and I, we hiked through without the baby. The in-laws really helped out that day. We hiked through the rainforest a little bit there. And so it's amazing, and in the same way that like redwoods are in California, like one of the trees that we walked through was that had fallen over, like it wasn't there anymore because it had been sawed through, because this was a maintained path or whatever, but it was as tall as my wife, and she's like 5'4" or 5'6" or something. Like, she's not super small. Like, she's a very regular sized lady, right? And so it's like, these are huge trees that are just growing right off the coast in Alaska there. And then the water, from the views that you can get, like, the water is just so blue and so beautiful. I know that we got really lucky because Ketchikan, I don't know if this is 100% true, but it's one of, if not the place in the United States with the most precipitation. Like, it rains the most days of the year there. But it was super sunny and super clear the day we were there. So we got so lucky that we got to like just enjoy the clear view from Ketchikan while we were there. And again, I first love traveling. I second love being part of nature and being in nature. And so we did hiking in a lot of these different areas in Skagway before we took the train. We also did a couple of different hikes, one to a lake up there, one out to part of the cove. And so just being able to be out in nature, being able to like experience that, to sit around in a rainforest, like, oh, man, it was such a joy, such a joy. And then when I got back, it was kind of funny. It made me really really thankful for being back home in this reason. On Monday, when I was walking my daughter to daycare, because the daycare center is pretty close, I walk her every morning. When I was walking her to daycare, she kept pointing out all of the birds because we have so many birds in our neighborhood. We have a lot of wildlife here, and it was funny to me because it just made me realize, like, sometimes it's really worth appreciating what you already have. Alaska was amazing. We searched for wildlife everywhere, but we had to search. It wasn't just like always there. And then here in Dallas, sometimes like that, the wildlife can just be already there for you. And so that was a nice reminder after the vacation that, like, we have it good already. And so I was really, really thankful for that. And of course, like, I was hugely thankful for the time away. And kind of like we talked about, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it now, but like, it takes a lot of communication and a lot of effort to make sure, especially if there are things that you may be the only person doing, right? It takes a lot of effort to make sure that those balls are either not dropped or that they're pre-planned so that they can be ready and that you don't have to do anything going forward. And so, Jay, I want to just touch briefly before we end today, like, how was planning for vacation? Did it take a lot of effort from you?
It did, because I had a number of projects I was working on.
Right.
And even right up to it, it's like, hey, when can I get some training on this? It's like, you know what? I'm leaving tomorrow, so yeah, let's do this right now. Like, yeah, let's do it. We actually got things like that in. And yeah, I left a week ago Wednesday, so that Tuesday, it's like I put into about 8 o'clock that night, just getting everything done and making sure that anything I thought that needed to be touched or looked after was handed off to somebody to keep an eye on it. And it was my intention to not look at anything work related. And I
didn't, Jay.
Probably 95%.
I didn't at all. It was my intention to not do it at all.
Yeah.
And I succeeded because I was able to I was in Alaska too. It's not quite as urban as Athens.
Yeah.
So I was truly kind of like out there.
Yeah.
And so it's that same time that I probably should have done better. Like truly, because I don't like, and then my wife really doesn't like, that I spent so long trying to wrap up work related things before I left. But at the same time, I did get to then check out for 6 business days. Like, I was just gone.
Yeah.
And now that I'm back, like, nothing broke. So it was a success. Like,
exactly.
all of that communication and all of that effort did pay off. Because now that I'm back, I had a lot of emails in the inbox, but it wasn't that bad. The team that I have that I work with really picked up the areas that we needed to pick up, and so in the end, like, it worked out perfectly. Like, all it takes is a lot of communication, right? That's always critical in any kind of business, right? A lot of communication, some planning, right? You have to make sure, like, the things that you're working on and the things that you need to be worried about, and so some planning, some communication, and then you can just disconnect as much as you can from work, which truly brings me back. Like I mentioned, like, it's Friday now, and I'm still tired. So, like, there's that's more because of my 2-year-old than because of anything else. But like, it is so important to be able to just spend time enjoying your life. Because if you don't, like, that burnout is a very real thing, and it
definitely.
It's just truly, it's so important to be able to spend time with the people that you love and the people that you care about, to be able to just enjoy the life that you have. You only get one, right? And so because of that, like, you need to take advantage of it. You need to enjoy it. And truly, the emails aren't that bad when you get back. Like, sure, you may have a lot of things going on, right? You may have a bunch of requests or questions that are outstanding, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
I spent most of today going through comps and trying to just clear it all off. And the other part of that is I'm going to a conference Sunday.
Yeah,
so Sunday through Thursday I'm also occupied again. So it's trying to accommodate all of that. So for me, it was a big deal.
Right.
The other side of that was this was truly my first disconnected vacation in 20 years.
Let's go.
So yeah, I mean, shame on me for not doing it earlier.
Hey,
Yeah.
would you do it again?
I'd go tomorrow.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Then that's, I think, the takeaway, right? It's
Yeah.
so valuable. It's so
Yeah.
useful. It's so worth it. Spend time with the people you care about. Do it as often as you can, and just get out there and enjoy it. Because no one's going to die because of taxes. Like, it'll be fine. No one's going to die because of accounting. It's going to be fine. Don't commit fraud because you will get busted. And just get out there, get away from work. Sometimes it is really important to be able to take a breather.
Completely true.
And I'm really, really thankful that it's been a little while since I did it as well, and so I'm really thankful that I did again. It was an awesome opportunity, an awesome time. So already planning the next one. Like I mentioned, my Southwest AI bot, that's related to my next one.
There you go.
So I'll have some stories about New England in September, and we can talk about that more. Actually, if you're listening out there today and you want to tell me a little bit about what I need to do in the New England area in September, send notes, make comments, whatever it takes. Let me know, because I'm gonna need it, and I want all the feedback that I can get. Jay, what to end here today? I know what's happening next week. You are going to Scaling New Heights, was it, Mark?
Scaling New Heights, yeah.
All right, I couldn't remember which one it was, but I was pretty sure.
I have 3 presentations that I'm doing, or I'm presenting 3 sessions. I'm co-presenting one with Christy, our coworker. Really excited about that.
Yeah.
And I also have a tech session on no-code tools that I'm going to do a 20-minute mini session in the exhibit hall. So got a lot going on there. Got a lot of people looking forward to seeing, and it's going to be fun. Also on the plate, I haven't seen a NASCAR race in over a week, so I've not seen the races from Sonoma last week, and so a lot going on.
Yeah, I haven't talked about it much, obviously, because we were gone the whole time. The Dallas Mavericks, probably my favorite professional franchise, they did make the NBA Finals. They did it, and now they're just going to lose really badly, and it's really embarrassing. I went to the game on Wednesday that I got to go, and it was really disappointing to watch them lose. But I'm hopeful that maybe tonight we'll get at least one win and not just be an embarrassment and a disgrace. Right. And maybe 2 wins would be even better, and it would certainly be better for my pocketbook, because I also have tickets for potential tickets for Game 6. And it might be difficult actually I might go. So maybe it's not good for my pocketbook. Maybe I want them to win. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go get a Game 7. Let's make it
let's make it interesting.
Out of it. Yeah. Both of the finals in both NBA and NHL have been kind of blowouty. It's not really been that great, not all that competitive. The Panthers are also smoking the Oilers, who beat my Stars. So we could have done better than this, or at least this bad. We could have done at least this bad,
right?
So I will be rooting for the Mavericks tonight, and on Monday hopefully, and then again on Thursday or whenever the next game comes or whatever. Let's go Mavs. But
is it really that many days between all the games?
Yeah, this was the only one though. This one was the only one that's I think 2. I think it's 2 nights and then a game for the rest of the series, which is kind of weird. It's a little bit, they've expanded it a little bit. I don't know if they did that on purpose or what the reasoning was behind it, but the one tonight is the only one for at least these first 5 that is on the old cadence of game, night, game. But yeah, let's I'm gonna watch, and I'm gonna hope that I'm not sad, but I might be. And so next week when we talk, I'll either be like, miracles can happen because we're gonna go to a Game 7, or I will maybe will have already been over my grief from from losing already. It doesn't really matter. The Mavericks overperformed anyway. I should already be just like so excited that we got this far. But it is always a little bit of a challenge when the team that you care for and the team that you support is in the like on the precipice,
For sure.
or close enough, right? Like you don't want it to be embarrassing, but you also there are 30 or 28 teams or whatever that are just hanging out watching these games. So being the final two is something to be proud of, even if it doesn't always feel that way. And and again, like I'm realistic here. I know we're not going to win, but no one wins. No one comes back from 3-0. But like maybe a couple injuries could happen or something. Like
You never know. That's why we got to play those
16-1
games.
twice. A 16-1 twice. Like it could happen. It's real. We'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna hold out hope until there isn't any reason to anymore. And if I get to go to Game 6, because we might have an opportunity to force Game 7, that will it'll be a miracle, but it'll be amazing at the same time.
Well, fingers crossed for you.
You know, one other thing, Jay, I haven't really thought about this. I haven't had this happen very much to me. Is it factual that Sunday is Father's Day?
Sunday is Father's Day. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any? Are you like just being left alone to watch NASCAR, or what's your Father's Day plan?
No, I will be at Scaling New Heights doing a presentation.
There you go. All right. Well, there you go. There you go. That's one way to celebrate Father's Day.
Yep, for sure.
I have no idea what I'll be doing, but I'm sure that my wife has something great cooked up. She bought some cookies, so I'm going to eat those. Those are going to be great.
There you go. Yeah.
And I'll get to spend time with my family, which is one of my favorite things to do. So let's go. Big fan of that. Wonderful. Well, Jay, I'm glad you got to get some time to get away. Everyone out there, I hope that you enjoyed hearing about the cool stuff that we got to do, and that you get to do cool stuff yourself. Until next week, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We are out of here.
Bye, everyone.